Welcome to another episode of People Pod. Picture a teenager living in Los Angeles in 2012.
Okay.
They are completely homeless.
Yeah.
No legal guardian, just sleeping on random couches in apartments they don't own.
Yeah.
And they're literally stealing iPhones to resell, shoplifting groceries just to afford enough calories to survive another day.
It's a brutal image.
It really is. So hold on to that image for a second. Now, flash forward to the year 2026.
Right.
That exact same person is standing on the Grammy stage. They're winning 2 massive awards for their hit song, Folded.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, they are sparking these intense political firestorms that are getting their concerts completely canceled by university presidents and city mayors.
It's an almost incomprehensible contrast. When you place those two realities side by side, it genuinely defies logic that they belong to the same lifetime, let alone the same human being.
Exactly. And today's deep dive is about the R&B powerhouse Kehlani, born Kehlani Ashley Parrish.
Such an important story.
It really is, because
Yeah.
this isn't your standard music biography where someone, sings in a choir, gets discovered, and lives happily ever after.
Definitely not.
This is a profound story of survival. We're getting into the devastating cost of early fame, navigating the absolute darkest corners of internet toxicity, and ultimately building a radical, unapologetic identity, even when it costs them financially and professionally.
And for you listening, to truly understand the artist Kehlani is today, we have to examine the literal survival tactics they had to use just to exist.
Right.
The defiance you see in 2026, it wasn't developed in some cushy recording studio. It was forged out of sheer necessity during a deeply unstable childhood.
Yeah, so let's start there. The year is 1995 in Oakland, California. Kehlani was born into incredibly difficult circumstances.
Yeah, really tough.
Their father struggled with severe drug addiction and passed away when Kehlani was just a toddler. And their mother also battled addiction and served time in prison.
Which meant they had to be adopted, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Kehlani was adopted and raised by their aunt.
And that specific environment with their aunt, it actually became the foundational layer of their artistry.
How so?
While the aunt was militant about the music played in the house, it was strictly neo-soul and R&B. So Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that became the auditory wallpaper of Kehlani's youth.
Huh?
The complex vocal runs, the deep emotional resonance of neo-soul, it was just always playing. But the funny thing is, music wasn't actually their first ambition.
Right. Their first passion was actually dance.
Yeah.
They were training in ballet and modern dance, attending the Oakland School for the Arts.
Mhm.
And their singular, overarching goal was to go to the Juilliard School for dance.
Which is huge.
Massive.
Yeah.
But in junior high, a severe knee injury completely destroyed that path. The physical capability was just gone.
Devastating.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because for you listening, I want you to imagine having your entire life's GPS route recalculated just as you are pulling out of the driveway.
That's a great way to put it.
For a young person whose entire self-worth is tied to physical movement, how does a kid process that level of early disruption? Because it's not just a medical issue. It's an identity crisis.
It is the absolute death of an identity. In developmental psychology, teenagers often anchor their emerging sense of self to a primary skill or a peer group.
Right.
So when a catastrophic injury removes that anchor, the psychological freefall is terrifying. But this early lesson in adapting to tragedy, it became the defining feature of Kehlani's entire career trajectory.
They had learned how to bounce back.
Exactly. They learned brutally early that when your foundation shatters, you cannot just stand in the rubble. You have to pivot immediately.
And that pivot, heavily influenced by all those hours absorbing Lauryn Hill in their aunt's living room, was toward singing.
And that pivot seemed to yield results impossibly fast, actually.
It did. At just 14 years old, Kehlani joins a local pop cover band called Pop Life.
And this wasn't just like a regular garage band. Their music was being produced by Dwayne Wiggins.
Wait, from Tony?
Tony.
Yes, the founding member of the legendary R&B group. So by 2011, Pop Life is auditioning for the 6th season of America's Got Talent.
And they do well, right?
Very well. They make it all the way to 4th place on national television.
But this is where the shiny veneer of the Hollywood dream hides a very dangerous trap.
Oh, absolutely.
During their final appearance on the show, the celebrity judge Piers Morgan looks directly at Kehlani on national TV and says, you've got real talent, but I don't think you need the group.
Just right there on live TV.
Wait, I have to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because I am fundamentally confused. If a major television personality tells you on live national TV that you are a solo star, Shouldn't record labels be knocking down your door?
You would think so.
How does a compliment on primetime television mathematically result in a teenager stealing groceries a few months later?
What's fascinating here is how the legal mechanics of reality television actually pushed a teenager into absolute destitution rather than stardom.
Okay, break that down for me.
So, Kehlani took Morgan's advice and left the group. But you don't just walk away from a nationally televised music act.
Right, there were contracts.
Labyrinths of them. Exclusivity agreements, non-competes, management contracts. Because Kehlani left, they triggered intense managerial and contractual disputes.
Oh, no.
Yeah. To avoid being sued into oblivion by Pop Life's management, Kehlani was legally barred from doing anything music-related for 6 months.
6 months.
6 months where they couldn't record, perform, or monetize their only viable skill.
Which explains the 2012 reality we opened with.
Exactly.
Because of this legal stranglehold, Kehlani becomes effectively homeless. They moved to Los Angeles during their senior year of high school, completely unmoored, with no legal guardian.
Just a kid.
Couch surfing in a notoriously expensive city. This is the period where they're resorting to stealing iPhones and shoplifting just to eat.
It's so jarring.
Millions of people had just watched them on television, assuming they were rich. And the reality is they are a teenager, navigating the streets of LA with zero safety net.
It really exposes how predatory the entertainment industry's infrastructure can be. It extracts the value from young, unprotected talent for television ratings and then abandons them to deal with the legal fallout entirely alone.
But when you have a once-in-a-generation voice, sometimes a lifeline appears.
Yes.
And in this story, it came from Nick Cannon, who was the host of America's Got Talent during the Pop Life run.
Right, he remembered them.
In 2013, Cannon calls Kehlani and asks if they want to join a rap group he's forming. Kehlani says yes, goes to LA, but very quickly realizes they hate the manufactured, artificial direction the group is taking.
Which is so brave, honestly.
It is. So even while living in a state of literal survival panic, Kehlani sets a boundary, quits the group, and moves back to Oakland.
Setting a boundary when you are financially desperate is incredibly difficult, but they kept working.
Yeah, they didn't stop.
Kehlani records a solo track called Anti-Summer La Vie and uploads it to SoundCloud. Cannon hears it, and he finally realizes what Kehlani is capable of as an authentic solo R&B artist.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Cannon didn't just hand Kehlani a check or try to mold them into a pop star of his own design.
No, he didn't.
He provided the sheer infrastructure for Kehlani to safely be themselves. He bought them an apartment in LA and paid for open studio time.
He essentially removed the threat of starvation and homelessness so the art could breathe.
That is so rare in this industry.
It really is, and the moment that pressure was lifted, the output was staggering. That studio time led to the 2014 mixtape Cloud 19.
Right.
Cannon sent them to New York to work with producer Jahan Sweet, and Complex Magazine immediately listed Cloud 19 among the 50 best albums of 2014.
Then in April 2015, they dropped their second mixtape, You Should Be Here, and it explodes.
Completely explodes.
Billboard calls it the year's first great R&B album. It debuts at number 5 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart, and it earns a Grammy nomination for Best Urban Contemporary Album.
And they sign a massive deal with Atlantic Records.
It's an incredible turnaround.
By 2017, they released their debut studio album, Sweet Sexy Savage, which hits number 3 on the Billboard 200. But, and this is a big but, we have to look at the physics of this trajectory.
Yeah, it was fast.
Going from stealing groceries to a Grammy nomination in a couple of years creates an emotional vacuum. When you rise that fast, the spotlight is blinding.
It's too much too soon.
And for someone who had survived immense childhood trauma and homelessness, that intense, toxic public scrutiny arrived long before they had the psychological armor to deflect it.
And that lack of armor became a crisis in 2016.
Yeah.
Kehlani was in a highly publicized relationship with NBA star Kyrie Irving.
Right.
But then, the OVO sound artist Party Next Door posts a picture on his Instagram of Kehlani's hand in his bed.
And the internet just weaponized that image instantly. Within hours, Kehlani was the #1 trending topic worldwide. Hundreds of thousands of abusive tweets, memes, and comments were hurled at them, accusing them of infidelity.
It was a digital mob of unprecedented, suffocating scale.
Yeah.
And the tragic part is, the premise of the mob was entirely false. Kyrie Irving later clarified on Twitter that he and Kehlani had already ended their relationship long before that photo was taken.
But the truth didn't matter to the algorithm.
Not at all. The sheer volume of digital vitriol pushed Kehlani into a terrifyingly dark place, leading to a suicide attempt.
It's awful.
Think about how a single mean text message from a friend or a coworker can ruin your entire afternoon, making your heart race. Now multiply that physiological panic by 300,000 strangers screaming at you simultaneously.
This raises an important question about the parasitic relationship between public figures and social media mobs.
Absolutely.
We consume their art, but the internet often feels entitled to destroy their humanity for entertainment. And to truly understand why this moment was nearly fatal, we have to look at the clinical reality.
Right, because Kehlani has since been very open about their mental health.
Yes, they've spoken about being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, or BPD, as well as bipolar disorder.
How does that diagnosis change the way we should look at that 2016 internet mob?
It changes everything. BPD is a complex mental health condition centered around severe emotional dysregulation and a profound, terrifying fear of abandonment.
Okay.
One of the hallmarks is something called rejection-sensitive dysphoria, where the brain processes emotional rejection or criticism not just as sadness, but as acute physical pain and an existential threat.
Wow, physical pain.
Exactly. Someone with BPD lacks the internal emotional skin to brush off criticism. So when you take a brain that is neurologically wired to perceive abandonment as a lethal threat, and you subject it to a coordinated global attack by hundreds of thousands of people.
It's not just cyberbullying anymore.
No, it is a catastrophic psychological assault.
This is a genuine miracle they survived it.
It really is.
And surviving that crucible forced a total ground-up reconstruction of Kehlani's life, identity, and boundaries.
You can actually see this healing process mapped directly onto their body.
Right. During their recovery, Kehlani got a tattoo prominently on their neck that reads, Perdida y encontrada, which translates to lost and found.
Their body modification became a method of reclaiming agency over their physical self. In 2017, they flew a New Zealand artist to Australia to give them a kiritui tattoo.
Now, what is kiritui exactly?
It's vital to explain that kiritui is distinct from tamoko. Tamoko contains specific ancestral lineage Wakapapa and is strictly reserved for Maori people.
Okay.
Kiritui, on the other hand, is a design created by a Maori artist specifically for a non-Maori person. It allows the recipient to respectfully experience the somatic, physical release of the tattoo process.
Oh, that makes sense.
Kehlani's piece has 6 koru patterns representing their siblings and hammerhead sharks to represent guidance and strength through adversity.
They also covered up a hand tattoo that said woke with a lotus flower.
Oh, why is that?
Because they felt their hand was broadcasting a message before they even opened their mouth to speak.
That is so deeply self-aware.
Right. But it wasn't just the external presentation that evolved. Their internal understanding of their identity underwent a massive shift, too.
Yeah, they really explored who they were publicly.
Kehlani navigated through public labels, identifying as queer and pansexual in the past, before eventually announcing they are a lesbian on the non-binary scale.
Right.
They updated their pronouns to she/thee, expressing that the pronoun they feels incredibly affirming and makes them feel truly seen. They've also been very open about practicing polyamory.
It is a rigorous, deeply intentional trajectory of self-discovery. They systematically dismantled every single box that society and the music industry tried to lock them inside.
Yeah.
And crucially, they facilitated this by radically changing their physical environment.
Yes, I love this part. For you listening, think of this transition like taking a corrupted, damaged hard drive and putting it into a sterile clean room to meticulously rebuild the operating system from scratch.
That's a great visual.
Kehlani moves entirely away from the noise of Hollywood. In 2020, they buy a small working farm in Simi Valley, California.
Completely off the grid compared to LA.
Exactly. And the year prior, they gave birth to their daughter at home. And again, breaking industry taboos, they were incredibly honest about suffering from severe prenatal depression, a reality that is heavily stigmatized.
That farm move was part of what they described as a spiritual detox, and a major component of this grounding involved embracing La Regla de Ocha, an African diasporic religion.
For those unfamiliar, what does practicing La Regla de Ocha actually involve?
La Regla de Ocha, often known as Santeria, is rooted in the Yoruba beliefs of West Africa, which survived and evolved in Cuba.
Okay.
It is an animistic faith that involves venerating orishas, which are spirits connected to the forces of nature. Unlike the ethereal, hyper-digital world of internet fame, La Regla de Ocha is intensely physical and grounded.
So very hands-on.
Very. It involves deep ancestral veneration, specific community rituals, and physical offerings. Kehlani also became vegan and fully leaned into the physical labor of farm life.
Literally connecting with dirt and community.
Exactly. And that deep, emotional stripping down fueled their critically acclaimed 2022 album, Blue Water Road.
They built a sanctuary. And this deeply grounded, fiercely unapologetic identity is the exact engine that drove their 2026 peak.
Without a doubt.
Which brings us to the most current chapter of their story. The musical progression has been relentless. From Blue Water Road to their 2024 album Crash, culminating in their massive 2026 self-titled album, Kehlani.
And that 2026 album was a cultural earthquake.
It really was.
The lead single, Folded, rocketed to #6 on the Billboard Hot 100. And at the 68th Annual Grammy Awards in 2026, Kehlani swept their categories, taking home the trophies for Best R&B Performance and Best R&B Song.
But intertwined with this ultimate industry validation is the most polarizing public stance of their career.
Yeah, this is where things get really intense.
Throughout this peak period, Kehlani emerged as a fierce, highly visible advocate for Palestine during the Gaza war. They released a music video for their song Next to You, and the visual direction was unmistakable. A Palestinian flag is prominently featured in the background of the entire video.
And the video doesn't just use imagery, it centers the narrative. It opens with a poem by the Palestinian-American writer and clinical psychologist Hala Alian, and it explicitly references the 1987 uprising.
Wow.
Yeah, Kehlani even wrote an outro dedicated to Palestinian children who were killed in the conflict.
And beyond the music, they mobilized their fan base financially. They released merchandise designed by a Palestinian creative director, explicitly directing 100% of the proceeds to aid Palestinian, Congolese, and Sudanese families through an initiative called Operation Olive Branch.
Which is a massive commitment.
It is. And they took this a step further on Instagram, directly challenging their peers in the music industry. They openly questioned why other celebrities with massive platforms were remaining silent.
Heavily implying that artists were prioritizing their corporate sponsorships over speaking out on a humanitarian crisis.
Exactly. But taking a stance that aggressive against the grain of the industry came with immediate, severe professional consequences in 2025.
The institutional pushback was swift and tangible. In April 2025, the president of Cornell University, Michael Kotlikoff, completely canceled Kehlani's scheduled headline performance at the university's annual Slope Day festival.
Just outright canceled it.
Yeah. In his public statement, Kotlikoff claimed the cancellation was because Kehlani had espoused anti-Semitic, anti-Israel sentiments.
But Kehlani did not backtrack.
Not even a little bit.
They responded directly to the university president's claims on Instagram, drawing a very strict line regarding their beliefs. They wrote, and this is a direct quote, "I am not anti-Semitic nor anti-Jew. I am anti-genocide. I am anti the actions of the Israeli government. I am anti an extermination of an entire people. I am anti the bombing of innocent children, men, women. That's what I'm anti."
But the bureaucratic walls kept closing in on them.
What happened next?
A month later, in May 2025, the office of New York City Mayor Eric Adams canceled a massive free summer stage concert that Kehlani was scheduled to headline for Pride Month.
Another cancellation.
Yeah. The city's first deputy mayor sent a formal letter to the event organizers threatening to revoke their operational license. They officially cited security concerns and an alleged risk to public safety due to the ongoing backlash against Kehlani's pro-Palestine advocacy.
So you have an artist who, in 2026, holds 2 new Grammy Awards, yet their tours and public performances are actively being dismantled and shut down by university presidents and municipal governments.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the psychological evolution is breathtaking.
It really is.
Think back to that teenager in 2012. That kid was couch surfing in Los Angeles, stealing iPhones, terrified of a legal contract, whose only conceivable goal was to survive another day in a predatory industry. Now look at the 2026 artist. This is someone who is fully willing to risk canceled tours, endure the wrath of politicians, and sacrifice their own financial bottom line to stand unmovable on their personal values.
Because they aren't paralyzed by the fear of losing their career.
Exactly. Because they already know exactly what it's like to have absolutely nothing.
They survived the absolute worst of the internet mob. They survived the physical reality of homelessness. They reconstructed a deeply traumatized nervous system on a farm in Simi Valley, and now they absolutely refuse to dilute their voice to make an institution comfortable.
Yeah.
Kehlani's journey is a masterclass in the dangerous, beautiful power of radical authenticity.
It forces us to redefine what power in the music industry actually looks like. True artistic power doesn't come from universally pleasing everyone or hoarding sponsorships. It comes from knowing the exact mechanics of who you are and being willing to pay the invoice for it.
Which leaves us with a thought I want you to really mull over today. In an era where celebrities are so swiftly punished for stepping out of line, where the machinery of fame constantly demands corporate compliance, is the true role of an artist simply to provide us with frictionless entertainment? Or is it to risk their platform, their safety, and their livelihood for what they believe in, just as Kehlani has? Thanks for listening to PPL Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.